I was in the newspaper business. I started off as a newspaper photographer.
I see.
Became a photographer reporter. Went to reporter photographer. Okay, and then at a time when I was on staff at a newspaper, the newspaper folded, and for a year, almost a year, I was without a job. But I had a hobby. My hobby was wine tasting, and I was pretty good at it. So I had a job at the racetrack shooting pictures of the horses crossing the line, and an ad came up for a sales rep. And my friends kept trying to convince me to do it because I knew everything about wine. I was the wine geek in the group. I said, no, I don't think so. And they convinced me to do so, and I applied, and that was the job that I got with Mark Anthony.
I see.
And suddenly I had an income, which was great. And to me, that was like going to the University of Wine from day one. My first day on the job, I was told, my boss couldn't attend a tasting, and I was to go and teach a lesson on Alsace. Okay, so half the day I spent reading about Alsace.
That's trial by fire, yes.
That's right, yeah. I taught. And that's how it happened. I always had to be one step ahead of everyone else in terms of knowledge, so that, if you read one book about wine, you're going to be great. If you read 2 books from cover to cover about wine, you're going to be an expert. You're going to know more than 99% of the population. Yeah. Right, it's as simple as that. So that's what I did, is I read a lot, I tasted a lot, and I taught a lot. And I listened to people's opinions, and I was pretty close to where the market was. And I was one of the only ones who was doing it. But when that job ended, because of the difficulty getting products into the liquor board, I still had a hankering for the news business. So I created my own magazine, the Wine Times Publishing Company, in 1985. Yeah. And at the same time created a wine importation company, Wine Finds. Right, because I knew how to work the system now, so I started bringing products into vintages, and the profits that I made on that I spent on the newspaper, on the magazine.
You were bringing in one of my favorite wines, Chateau Moussard, at some point, were you?
Chateau Moussard I was bringing after I shut down the magazine. A year later, I shut down the magazine. It was going to break up my marriage, and I decided I'd rather keep the marriage than the magazine. So, and then I joined Shenley Canada, which was a large distillery with a huge wine portfolio, really fine wine portfolio. And I joined them. Chateau Moussard was Mzar, as they call it. Chateau Mzar was one of the products that they had. And so I met Serge Rochard. I spent a lot of time with him. Our products included Drummond, we had Veuve Clicquot, we had Bola, we had Antinori,
so
we had some really fine products, Pio Cesare and Barolo. We had great Bordeaux, Burgundies, Alsace, you name it, we had it. So I had a fantastic portfolio to sell for the next 5 years, and basically had a ball selling it. But that company, when the free trade agreement came in, that company was sold to an American division of an Irish company.
Same old.
Same old. And they decided they really didn't care about the fine wine portfolio. They were more interested in the distilled stuff. So they said, you got a lot of great skills, Konrad, get the fuck out of here and go use them elsewhere, right? So that was 1990, and I've never sold a bottle of wine since then.
Right.
I've been in writing ever since. I did some things on radio. I had a show on radio for 22 years where people would phone in. Each time I would introduce a new wine to the audience, talk about what foods would go with it, and then we'd open the phone lines and let people ask any question they wanted about wine. And that went for 22 years. It was a pretty good gig.
Which radio station was that?
It was CBC.
CBC.
So we actually had the entire province and spill over into Quebec, spill over into Manitoba, and spill over into the States. So we had a huge audience until about 1996, 97, when the product started going on internet. And then that completely changed. When internet came in, it completely changed my focus, because previously I'd always been writing for a local audience, talking about what products were local, what products were available, what's going on, what's new and what's exciting, what's interesting. When the internet came up, I started getting questions from Netherlands, from New Zealand, from all over. And I said, well, I have to widen my view and have a global view. I have to talk to the world because the world is listening, right? It completely changed how I approached my writing.
In all your years in the wine world, what are the biggest changes that you have seen?
Well, probably the biggest one that I've seen is the quality of wine. The very first interview I ever did as a wine journalist was to go to New York with a collection of Canadian Chardonnays and to meet Alexis Lichine, who at the time was the most important wine writer, producer, marketer, seller, shiller in the world. Alexis Lichine. He wrote the Encyclopedia of Wines and Spirits. And I asked him that very question. I said, what's going to be the big change in the future? He said, there's going to be no bad wine. Because science and technology was coming in so quickly, so rapidly, that what used to be nature's way, if it got too warm in the cellars, they opened the doors to the cellars to let the cold air in. There was no temperature control, heating. Just today I was looking at the new EU wine regulations, and I cannot believe the number of categories of chemistry, of processes, of products, of ingredients that are controlled for adding to wine. And these are all there to guarantee quality, shelf life, preservation, pH balance, emulsifiers, whatever you have, texture additives, that wine today is very much a food product, or in the style of a food product. It's completely controlled. Everything you go on the shelves of Loblaws or Metro or Sobeys or whatever, and all the jams are of safe and good quality. You're not going to get something that's crap there. You want that, right? You're going to go into a private shop in a little village and you're going to buy, something that was made at a farmer's market or for a farmer's market. And there you might get a little mold on it, or it might be great. It might be better than anything. Everything else, it's like industrial standard. It's globalized, and that's what we have now. Whether it's Apothic or Meiomi or Bola Valpolicella or Cave Spring Riesling, on the shelf. These are processed products. So that's the big change. There's very little out there that is bad wine. There's wine that will appeal to anybody, even if you know nothing about wine and love bad wine. Right? I'm sorry, you're going to be left out if you love bad wine.
Speaking of changes, how has your palate evolved over the years?
My palate is extremely sharp. I loved annually to do the big wine judgings because it would focus my palate so well, and for next months it would be just so focused. And then as in a tasting like that, you taste 100, 200 wines in a weekend. You do that every Friday, and your palate is constantly tuned. But if you're not doing that on a regular basis, then your palate doesn't get any worse. Your memory and your ability to pull out those rare words that you need gets a little worse.
The neural pathway gets a bit dusty.
With age, I would say that my palate has gotten duller, but my ability to use it has gotten sharper.
Interesting.
Okay, so at the beginning, I remember the first 2 years of tasting were very tough because I thought I was not learning anything. There were times when everything tasted the same to me, unless there was a Gewürztraminer in the group, right? And then one day there's a tasting, and I remember I got over the hump. Suddenly I started tasting new things that I had not noticed before, and that comes with time. It only comes with time, and anybody can do it. With years, you just have, every time you taste the wine, it's like putting one sheet into a filing cabinet. One sheet, this wine, these tastes, that balance, this story, that producer, everything about it, you put there and you put it in and it goes back. Well, right now my files are overflowing. There's so much there to go back and refer to.
Almost like an overstuffed Rolodex.
Perhaps, yeah, but I mean, I can, like a well-worn encyclopedia or dictionary,
right,
where everything is now in order, you know where the S's are, you can find, if there's a new word there, syzygy or whatever, you can find it quickly, or you can build around it. You, at the beginning, you're tasting a bit of this and a bit of that. Afterwards, you say, well, so Bordeaux's are like this, and Burgundies are like this, or Pinots like this, and Cab Merlots are like this. And then after a while, Bordeaux's are like this, but Cabs are like this, and Merlots are like this. And you start developing the ability to identify them like that, because you know them so well.
When it comes to tasting, you mentioned that anyone can do it. And I guess today that is the case, because with the advent of the internet, everyone has an opinion when it comes to everything. Where does that...
Having an opinion means nothing, okay? Having something to back it up is a lot better, but go on.
But how has that impacted the state of wine journalism today?
Today there is no wine journalism. With few exceptions, Jancis Robinson, Jamie Good, Eric Asimov, a few others in the world. Most of it is now wine promotion. You get your bottles and you talk about them. You don't talk about the ones you don't like. You build the stories around the wines you want to promote. It's all boosterism and co-promos.
I hear what you're saying. Konrad, thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution today.
Thank you so much for listening to me. Cheers.
I very much appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jamie.